There we go. Okay. So welcome to our Tuesday Talk series. I know a number of you have been joining us sort of from the beginning, and we have a lot of new faces today as well. I just want to let you know, we also have live transcription available for anyone who would like to use that. All you need to do is click a button on the bottom of your screen. Just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Jillian Moise. I'm a PhD candidate in sociology at UC Davis. I also serve as this year's graduate student advisor to the Dean of Graduate Studies and the Chancellor. And I'll make sure to share my email address for anyone who wants to reach out with any questions that you might have. With regard to the Tuesday Talks series, this was started as part of my GSADC project. So again, that's the Graduate Student Advisor to the Dean and Chancellor, in collaboration with key graduate studies staff, including Jessica Fayla Ward, who, if she's not on the call yet, she will be joining us shortly. It's a spring quarter series that's designed to provide graduate students an opportunity to informally connect with advanced degree alumni who have successfully navigated graduate school at UC Davis and who come from diverse academic fields and professional backgrounds. Each alum will share their experiences on personal perspectives on a professional development topic of their choosing. So after today's talk, we'll actually have 3 more sessions in the month of May. And let me actually go ahead and link send a link to, here you can find all of the Tuesday Talk sessions if you're interested in attending those, the remaining ones. So before we officially get started, a couple of housekeeping items. I know some of you are actually joining us from the Whole Scientist series who've partnered with us on a couple of sessions. It's been brought to my attention that there might have been an error on one of the links to one of the sessions. So if you registered today, but you were actually interested in the work-life balance session, that is actually next week. And I'm actually going to put a registration link there. I hope you still, if you did register intending to join us for that session, I hope you still stay with us today, but I do want to let you know that the work-life balance session is next Tuesday, May 11th. Other housekeeping things, I'm just going to ask if everyone can keep their mics muted during the actual presentation. And afterwards, there will be between 15 and 20 minutes for questions, at which point you can use the raise hand function, or you can type your questions in the chat. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, who is joining us all the way from Turkey. And I believe he has many graduate students who are joining us from Turkey as well. So welcome. I believe it's 10 p.m., a little after 10 p.m. over there now. So the presentation will be on online or strategies for online teaching and higher education. Dr. Mustafa Ozilgen holds a PhD degree in chemical engineering from UC Davis. He is the author of 5 books. 4 of them are published internationally, and 120 refereed articles published in international journals. Dr. Ozilgen received his entire education and worked in English-speaking schools throughout his career. He taught classes in the Middle East Technical University in Yeditepe, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, University in Turkey, Massey University in New Zealand, and at UC Davis. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Mustafa Ozilgen. You can feel free to take it away, Dr. Ozilgen.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe you wanted to share your screen. We can't see anything right now.
Oh. It is open here. I don't see any buttons here to share at the moment.
So your co-host, if you look at the bottom and see the green share screen button, if you click on that, you should be able to click on your document.
Well, let me find the share where it is.
In the meantime, I can try and see if I can pull up your presentation. While Dr. Mustafa is working
Yeah,
on.
I'm just getting connected.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and drop my email address in the chat box for anyone who would like to reach out to me with any questions with regard to the series and or questions that you may have about my role as GSADC at UC Davis. There we go. I see your screen, Dr. Ozilgen.
Okay, great.
It's a little bit large. I think if you click on the present slideshow, it might come out a little bit better for us.
Is it okay now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Excellent.
Sure. Well, see, guys. Okay. I work for the Middle East. I work for the Yeditepe University at the moment. I'm a graduate of the Middle East Technical University. Then I have my PhD degree from the University of California at Davis. I have about 5 publications at the moment, international publications regarding the coronavirus cases. And this is probably the most similar case to what we are living through at the moment. This is the Spanish pandemic during the First World War. So people were just like us. They were trying to keep the distance between themselves, and they were trying to use those face masks and trying to get away from this as much as possible. You see the cat here. Even the cat has a mask at that time. This was during the First World War. It is called the Spanish pandemic, Spanish flu, because the Spanish king died. It was the only country where they did not have any censorship. So information was available about how many people died, what happened. But in most cases, most countries limited the numbers. Well, today, I'm giving this speech because during the pandemic, my teaching efficiency has improved drastically. So I wanted to share my experience with the other people too. I have some experience with teaching in University of California at Davis. In 1992, I taught 2 classes over there, and it was quite satisfactory. And I got responses like the best teacher I have ever had in the evaluation sheets. So it was very happy. I wanted to share my experience with you when I got the email, which was sent to all the alumni. But this is actually the representative cartoon. Today, actually, we are living the same thing. So we are in such a shape, scared, we have our mask. This is Hades. When my son was a small boy, we had this character in the movies. I was used to watch this with him. You see, this people is dying. Some people do not care about what's going on. They are having fun. It is exactly the same case what we are having today. Some people have scared to that, and some people do not care about what's going on and the measures taken by the authorities. So this is an insidious disease. You see that most of the people are asymptomatic. They do not show the symptoms, but they still distribute the virus around. So this is one of the cases why people do not care much about it. But on the other hand, they are scattering the virus around and people are dying. About 5% of the people having worse experience, they got sick, some of them die, some of them recover, but unfortunately, even the tests to confirm whether people are sick or not very much reliable at the moment. So during this pandemic, some people went out of the cities and they hide away. Exactly the same thing happened in Europe in the Middle Ages. Today, we have internet, but sometimes it does not carry the load. All of the schools in Turkey are doing distant education, including the elementary schools, going up to the universities, including the graduate classes, and sometimes it doesn't carry the load. I have some students joining my classes from Kyrgyzstan, so it's quite a big distance, and we are trying to reach people over there. Some people went bankrupt, their families lost all of their income. Some students needed to work full time, their loved ones died. There were some medical practitioners in the families. They couldn't come and see their children, their husbands, wives, and people were at shelter at home. They were not allowed to go out. In some cases, the entire burden of the family was carried by the students. For example, in Turkey, people who were over 65 years old were not permitted to go out. There was only one person in the family, my student, and she had to carry the entire burden. And as a result of this, we got new professorial responsibilities. We did not have those responsibilities earlier. So it was part of the new responsibilities in the distant uh, education. So today I will be speaking about uh, these students. The entire body were included the biomedical engineering students, genetic and bioengineering students, food engineering students, chemical engineers, and about 80% of the students were female and 20% were male. So I'm going to speak about these people, and all of them could take my classes without any restriction. So these are the classes that I have been teaching. Scientific Foundations of Biological Sciences. I will explain my background in the next slide. Biothermodynamics, statistical quality control, food process engineering, modeling and control in biomedical engineering, and there were also some undergraduate projects. So you see here myself, together with my two students. Selcan has already finished her PhD work, and Eylül is here together with us at the moment, and she prepared a undergraduate project. We worked on it together. This is the book one of the books I authored, Biothermodynamics, and I put this picture here because if we should have time, I would like to go over the article we authored together. So when I was in Davis, Professor Joe Smith was one of the leaders of thermodynamics, and his book made 7 editions. Now, although this pupil has died, it was updated by a younger person, younger professor. It is still a very popular book. And David Alice, this is a biochemical engineering book authored by Professor Bailey and Professor Alice. Professor Alice was my advisor. So I authored this article to tell all of the story about the development of biothermodynamics. It was published in Energy Research. So if you should be interested in that, you can read that paper. I can even provide it to you if you should send me an email. So these are the other books. These books are important because in pandemic, students need a book to trust and to start with. So this is a modeling book. I use this in my statistical quality control class, the last chapter. And this is the biothermodynamics book. The biothermodynamics knowledge comes from the combination of the information coming from there. Of course, I improved it a lot, but this is where I learned biotechnology, and this is where I learned thermodynamics. So you might be interested in this book too. This is available in the Shields library, and I will show some pages from there that I am using in my classes. So this is a picture prepared by a Japanese artist in 1858. It is describing the white water. There is high mixing there. When you look at this, it is a very, very nice picture. But when you look at that with the eyes of a chemical engineer, you see that there is white water there. There is interfacial contact. Oxygen is diffusing in. You have this movement. There is exergy destruction. So in scientific context, I sometimes open pages from there and discuss what is happening in these pictures. So you can also see this one. This is another Japanese picture. So here I use this picture for speaking about the energy conversion. Here we have the kinetic energy of air converted into the potential of the energy of the kite. So I open this book sometimes and look at these pictures and explain my students this as examples in their lectures. So they had these books, and they were the examples in these books were the starting points of the most of the projects. All the exams in this era checked for their authenticity either with Turnitin or Moodle. So the students had to be confident that nobody in the class was permitted to cheat. So Turnitin shows you what parts of the projects or exams are similar with those of the other students. And I tried to communicate with my students and advise them throughout the semester through the emails. They were free to ask questions. They were free to show me the exam papers. They were free to discuss what they are doing and consult me anytime. Well, then I was teaching through the internet in my distant teaching, the classes never came together. So I had to contact the students from through the internet. And in order to convince the students that they can do it, this was very important. I shared with them the previous year's exam grades. And I always told them that the previous class was not any better than themselves. They achieved it very well, then they can also achieve it themselves too. And I tried to ask open-ended questions. So they were always making their decisions, and by making them to make their own decisions, I tried to reduce similarity. So this is one of the grade sheets that I shared with my students. I deleted the names because it is not permitted in Turkey to show the grades of the pupil, but so I anonymized this. But you can see the department This is chemical engineer, this is biomedical engineer, there are other biomedical engineers. This student was in the Department of Genetics and Bioengineering. It goes off like that. And these are the exam grades. The first exam and the second midterm exam had a contribution of 33% to the total grade, and the project had a contribution of 24%, and the presentation of the project had another grade. It was 10% of the grade. So it was very important to show them these grades. So this these results were obtained at the end in the pandemic era. So students have achieved this, and I always told them that the previous class was about the same, they had about the same skills as you, and they did that very well, so you can do it too. There were 29 AAs. This is something like the A plus in Davis and A. This BA is something between B plus and A minus. This is B. This is something in between B minus and C plus, and it goes like that. There were not any Fs in the class because the students handled this very well. And I can always follow what they were doing very easily. I was understanding that from the questions that the students shared with me. In 1992, I taught 2 classes in UC Davis. At that time, my wife was pregnant. I hope you see this picture. This is just after coming from UC Davis, and he was at that time 1 year old, and he had the body of the UC Davis on. So when I was teaching classes, we had an excellent contract, and the university permitted us to take some classes, pregnancy classes. One of those classes was the positive speech lectures, and they taught us how to be positive, how to give positive messages, and how to select our words when speaking. And I still remember what we learned there, and I still use that, and it still pays. This is Professor David Allis. He was my advisor. This is me, and this is Harold Mombeke. He is with the Chemical Engineering Department in UCLA now. I used very positive words in every occasions to give the positive message to my students, and I believe that it helped a lot to go through this the ordeal of pandemic. How did I motivate the students? I always told them that the previous class was very good. They succeeded very well, so you can do the same. And gaining their confidence was very important. And I had the feeling that they were confident. So when they get confident, and as I explained you that we had the Moodle and Turnitin, the exams was very honest. I also shared the previous year's exam questions with the students, and in UC Davis, I attended to a biochemistry class, and in that class they were doing the same thing. All of the exam questions were available in the library, in the Shields library, so I was able to teach, I was able to study, all the students were able to study and get ready for the exams by studying them. In my classes, the previous year's questions are always available, and I also return the exam papers back, and if they are not, sorry, I return the exam papers back, it means that I did not grade them if I think that they were not satisfactory, and I ask them to work on them once more. Moreover, I also got the permission from the owner of the best exam paper to circulate it to the class. So when I was asking for permission, also I was used to say that if you should want me to write a reference letter for you, I will put it into my reference letter that I shared your exam paper with your friends, and it contributed to the class very positively. And also, at the end of the year, I gave them one more opportunity to increase their exam grades. They worked on their papers again, and they uploaded it to the system. So when the exam papers are uploaded to Turnitin, it says something about the origin of the sentences. It tells you this sentence is the same with another student's paper, whatever, or previous year's paper, or another exam paper in Italy, for example. So you can see them all. I was reading the similarity analysis. When I see that it was highly similar, I was asking them to work on that once more. And also, I will show you two sets of exam questions. I encourage the students to make their own decisions, to make their own choices in the projects or in the exam papers to reduce the similarity. And they were also free to send me emails. So this is not my student. I got it from the internet, but this is actually what happened in my classes. They had the entire library. They were free to do whatever they can do. And at the end of the term, they were required to upload the exam papers into Turnitin. This is a sample exam paper. Actually, this was given this semester in biothermodynamics class, and the students were needed to make all of these decisions by themselves. It was required to be about 8 to 10 pages because they had more than 10 days to work on it. They had to choose the process and describe it. So when they chose the process, some people worked on photosynthesis, for example, some other people worked on some kind sort of muscle work, some people worked on chewing. Another student preferred working on a person who's riding a horse. They were among their choices. So these are the choices that they have to do next, depending on their initial choice. And all of this balances, charts, whatever available in the book. So by looking at them, they were able to complete it. If they should not understand anything, they were free to contact me through email. In engineering, I believe that Old Greek is very important because even in Davis, in the buildings, you see a lot of Greek letters. If they should not know those letters, they will not understand that. And in order to get the full understanding of the subject, they have to know the Greek letters. So in all of my exams, at least once a year, once a semester, I ask them to write something with the Greek letters. This is from another exam. This is from the quality control class. Biomedical engineers were required to find a biomedical subject to work on. Food engineers were required to find a food-related topic to work on. And chemical engineers were required to do something like that too. So in the books, they have examples to that. They had to create their own question and answer it. and I could follow what they understand, how do they think from those questions. Also, I was teaching, for example, to biomedical engineers a mathematical modeling class, mathematical modeling and control of the biomedical processes. So I can even follow them. I can even follow their thinking by relating it to the previous class. So I always inform them about what happened and at what point they lost their grades. For example, this student did not upload anything to Moodle or to Turnitin. This person got very low grade in the project. This person has a very high similarity. And this person turned in papers with questions which were very similar to the examples in the book. And these two students answered the answers of these two students were highly similar, so it was not acceptable, but the students knew about this. Well, this was all I was planning at the moment. So if you have any questions, we can discuss that. I can also show you an exam paper, sorry, one of the articles that we authored with my students, if there should be any question about that. Yes, Julian.
Thank you, Dr. Ozilgen. Can everyone hear me? I apologize. I've been having some technical difficulties using a different computer. If you can hear me, let me know.
Yeah, I hear you, but I don't know about that.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. We do have time for questions and answers.
Of course I do, of course.
So you can feel free to either unmute yourself and ask your question out loud, or feel free to drop your question in the chat, at which point I will read the question out loud. And Dr. Ozilgen, you said you have some additional information about something you've published before. Did you want to share maybe that before we get into the questions?
Okay. Well, do you see this?
Yes.
Well, you saw our pictures with my students. One of them was Eylül, and the other one was Selcan. Three of us were working together on a project. So this project turned out to be a scientific paper. It was published in the International Journal of Exergy. This was an undergraduate project, but the results were highly successful, so we decided to turn it into a scientific paper. So in this paper, we calculate the energy needed by the RNA virus, just like the coronavirus, to cause the disease, cause the pandemic. So here we have the information in the abstract about how much energy is needed to start it. And the keywords were virus, epidemic, energy, exergy, host cell rupture. We calculated all of them. So here we have some information about the coronavirus, poliovirus disease and its outbreaks. How many people were affected? Then we spoke about the way how it enters into the body. Then we calculated the energy needed for that. I am repeating once more. This was an undergraduate research, but the results were highly successful. So in Caltech, some people worked on a similar project through a highly different way, and we found out that our results was very close to theirs. So we made a lot of thermodynamic calculations by looking at the structures. So Eylül got some permission from the American universities, and we used a package to evaluate some the energy levels of the virus. Today, everybody is worrying about the mutation, but for poliovirus, the energy levels are available. The competing structures are available. So by looking at them, you can easily see that the mutations are always happening. So this is the way that the virus goes into the cell. It comes from the foods. The student was a food engineer, so it enters to the intestines as described here. The virus abuses the energy metabolism of the cell and proliferates itself over there. Here in this graph, you see what happens. These are the fundamentals equations of thermodynamics. I teach them in the biothermodynamics class. Eylül had already took the biothermodynamics class. And also we had Selcan there. Selcan was a PhD student at that time. And she was highly knowledgeable in these topics. Three of us worked on that. So this is what happens after the cells burst. You see that one cell entered in, so one virus entered in, a lot of them came out, and all of them, if they could find possibility, started the disease in a new host. So we have prepared this chart. This is about the energy balance, the first law of thermodynamics. This is for the second law, the injection second law regarding the infection process. We also made the same analysis for the cell rupture stage. All of them gave us some information about what happened and to what extent it affected the people. So you see here that how we employ the available data in the biological systems. And she made a lot of calculations to adapt the data to the conditions in the body. So I do not want to take your time anymore, but this is what we have done. I repeat once more, this was an undergraduate project, and we calculated that extremely small energy was needed to start this process. So it is easily understandable why people got sick, why even a single virus can start the pandemic.
Thank you, Dr.
That's all I was planning to say,
Yeah.
Julian. If anybody has questions, I will be very happy to respond.
Thank you so much. As I just put in the chat, if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat or raise your hand, and you can unmute yourself. Feel free. So the focus of the presentation, of course, were the online teaching strategies, but as you saw, Dr. Ozilgen also shared a little bit of the research that he's working with his undergraduate students. So if you have questions for either one of those aspects of the presentation, please feel free. I think I see a raised hand from Liberty. Feel free to go ahead and ask.
Hi, thank you for giving this presentation at such a late hour. Right now, while you're doing this online education, at your university, do professors or yourself record the lectures so that
Yes, we record the lectures. We have them because
Okay.
students found that they were very, very helpful, and especially while they are studying for the exams, they wanted to listen it repeatedly. Although they attend to the classes, they have the lectures, and they use the lectures. They use those videos repeatedly.
Sure. I actually really appreciate having recordings available to me as a graduate student. I also really like to be able to go back and look at materials, so I appreciate that. My follow-up question, though, is do you have any concerns about your lectures possibly circulating on like YouTube or somewhere on the web?
No, no, there is no problem with that. They can circulate that because I have the books published, and all of those material are based on those published books. We have the copyrights, so anybody can use them. It is undergraduate level teaching anyway. This is not research or anything.
Sure. The reason I'm asking is I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about the preservation of intellectual property. So for myself, as someone who will finish their PhD very soon and possibly go into teaching, I won't have any books that are published that I can teach from. So when I go into teaching and start to teach from my own experience and philosophy, but we're still doing this online platform where we want the recordings to be available to students. Do you have any advice for someone like me who's very early in their teaching career on methods for like preserving my intellectual property, but still making information available to students?
I didn't think about that, to tell you the truth.
Sure. It's a new issue.
At the moment, I have the copyright of all the books. So even and I even encourage the pupil to use them. For example, I got an email from a professor in McGill University in Canada this semester. He was planning to open a biothermodynamics class. So I made a lot of material available to him.
Sure.
Anyway, as I told you earlier, I learned this material from my professors. They are retired, even died at the moment. So I am just passing the information to the other ones. I taught some classes in the United States. I taught everything the same way as I did in Turkey.
So maybe a good strategy for someone like me who's coming into their career is to maybe just use existing material and teach from those books. And then even if my
better idea. It might be a better idea.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Liberty, for your question. Appreciate that. Other questions? I'm looking for raised hands or questions in the chat.
Actually, let me tell you something. When I was in Davis, my professors did the same thing. We always had the drafts of their books as the graduate class lecture material. And nobody from my class or from that group stole anybody else's intellectual property. So we were even helping our professors to correct the material. So, for example, Professor David Ellis put me to the acknowledgements of his book. So I really helped him to correct some of the things and provided the material. So it was an honor for me to be in his book.
Thank you for that addition. This is definitely, I agree with Liberty. This is certainly an important question, and one that's especially important for our time now. But that's really helpful, Dr. Ozilgen, your perspective on that question. Other questions for Dr. Ozilgen? And if you prefer to send me a question privately that you would like me to read out loud, that's totally fine as well. Maybe I'll ask a question, Dr. Ozilgen,
Sure.
with regard to undergraduate teaching. You talked, I think you touched on this briefly, but in terms of the motivation that students have in an in-person class versus a class in the remote environment, do you notice any differences there? And maybe if you could talk a little bit more about the strategies that you use to help with that motivation.
Well, I actually had a slide to describe that. So let me show it once more. Well, this was the major motivation, but I would like to tell that the reputation of the professors goes between the students before he enters into the class. Students ask the other people who took his class or her class and try to get some idea before registering to those classes. So at the beginning of the semester, they were making a decision about what grade to get. And in my classes, I am very lucky that students start my classes with the intention of getting A's. So once they decide to make it, it is very easy. So they tell us, you ask a lot of questions, they attend to the lectures. If they do not understand anything, they send you emails. So I found all of them very important to be, in quote, a good teacher. And I put a lot of time to achieve that too. They ask the same question maybe 3 times by sending emails, and I answered all of them. And I tried to make them trust me. And also I tried to be fair. I did not want anybody to steal other people's material to get good grades. Then it worked out very well. And I follow the same strategy in all of my classes.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you going over that again. I might have missed a little bit of it when I was experiencing some of my technical difficulties, but that's helpful. Other questions?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Johanna, and I have a question on the positive feedback. I guess you start off as, telling them you can do well because my previous class did well.
Yes, exactly.
How do you push that throughout the quarter or semester? I'm sorry, I'm not too sure.
Well, at the beginning of the class, I put the grades of the previous year students to the Google Classroom. We use Google Classroom. And so this is what I gave them. In this class, I had 79 students, if I am correct. They were coming all from these departments. I deleted the names. This is actually from the material that I gave to the students. They have their grades here. So they see that these are the available, these were the grades of the previous year students. And I kept on saying that the previous class was not any better than you are. Well, actually, this is a result of some experience too. Some years ago, I was teaching a mathematical modeling class, mathematical modeling in chemical engineering class. So somebody else was teaching that class before me. and the grades were terribly bad. So I decided to share my grades with those students, and I told the same thing to them. I am teaching it in a different way. Forget about the other methodologies. This will happen. So a student who came in with the expectation of getting B at the end of that semester got A, because they have to believe that they will get an A. In that huge big class, I had only one D. D is something just slightly better than F, and most of them got A's. And the next semester, they decided to got A's. This was one of the motivations, one of the ways of motivation.
Thank you.
And of course, fair grading is very important. You should not let anybody to cheat by using the other people's material. For example, there is one question over there. I'm asking them to write an English phrase with all Greek letters. Some students used Google Translator to translate them into Greek. But Greek is something than the Old Greek. It's something different than Old Greek. So all of those students got bad grades, but at the end of the semester, I explained them what they did was not fine, and there was some, I didn't put every mark here, and I said that you used Google Translator. This is not fair. This is what you did is wrong. And they are convinced that this should not be done. And in all of my lectures now, I am repeating that. I'm telling them about that example. So if they should understand that they will get fair grades and there's very high opportunity to get good grades, they cooperate.
Thank you. So we probably have time for maybe one more question if anyone has. And while we're waiting to see if someone has a question, let me put the link again. This should be the link to next week's Tuesday talk, work-life balance. So any final questions? If not, we can probably give you all a couple of minutes of your time back. I want to thank Dr. Ozilgen again so much for being really generous with your time and giving a presentation on a really important topic today, especially at such a late hour where you're located.
No, it's not that late, no.
And thank you.
I guess, yeah, it's about 11.
Almost 11, right?
Well, we stay at home all the time, so there is shelter in place.
That is true.
I had my first vaccination. There should be one more dose, and we are waiting for that.
Thank you also to your students who are also joining us from Turkey. Appreciate that. And thank you to all of the attendees who participated in today's session. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I'll kind of stay on the line for a couple of minutes if anybody has questions. But thank you all again. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see some of you at the remaining Tuesday talks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Take care.
Bye-bye, you too. Bye-bye.